The envelope in her purse said reserved seating, family only. I wasn't in it, not even as a +1. I waited until we were alone on the porch, sun warming the cheap plastic chairs she never got around to replacing. "Should I take off work Friday?" I asked. "For the ceremony?" She didn't even look up from her phone, just smirked like I'd stepped on a line she'd drawn weeks ago. "My parents don't want you there," she said. "They still like Tyler, my ex." There was a pause. It lasted longer than the breeze that stirred her dress against the table leg. "You're not their kind of guy," she added, like I should have known. I nodded, didn't argue, just said, "Got it." She laughed once through her nose like I was being sensitive. "Don't be dramatic." I leaned in, kissed her temple, the way you do when the moment needs nothing more. Walked inside, slid the key from my ring, left it on the counter by the coffee canister she never sealed tight. That's the thing about quiet people. We don't always reply in words. By the way, if you're still listening, take 2 seconds and hit subscribe. Like the video if this hit a nerve. 97% of you don't, and trust me, it makes a difference. That night, while she tried on heels in the mirror and asked if her dress looked too white for a grad gown, I opened my backup drive, the one she didn't know I had, pulled files, bank documents, employment letters, a scanned note her dad wrote me after that house repair he couldn't handle. Everything she'd forgotten I ever touched. I didn't speak a word, didn't say I was hurt, didn't demand fairness. Because when someone tells you they don't want you where they're celebrated, you believe them the first time. And when they say it in front of their parents and their friends from undergrad, you remember the way their mother laughed. You remember the one friend who looked down at her drink and said nothing. You remember everything. I lay on the couch that night, lights off, just watching the red glow from the router across the room. She posted a boomerang of her cap toss practice, captioned it, "Ready to walk." I didn't like it, didn't comment. She didn't notice. But she would. The morning of her graduation, the apartment smelled like hairspray and perfume. I heard her heels clicking back and forth as she darted from the bathroom to the bedroom, asking if her robe needed steaming. I told her it looked fine. She didn't hear me. While she curled her hair in front of the mirror, I folded the last of my clothes on the bed. Socks by color, shirts rolled, jackets on hangers for the dry cleaner. She kept asking if I'd seen her earrings. The pearl ones. I hadn't. She left without noticing the closet was thinner on one side. I started with the bottom drawers, my tech gear, external drives, that envelope with my birth certificate and passport she once joked about tossing just to trap me here. I smiled a little at that, not in bitterness, just memory. I kept packing. My toiletries, my tools, the 2 pans I actually used. I left the spice rack. We both knew she never touched it. Took my books, even the one with her sticky notes in the margins, because I'd underlined different things, quiet things, ones she never read aloud when we studied together. I left the couch, left the rug, left the framed print of that night skyline she bought at a street fair with Tyler, then hung above our bed, left the shared bank card in the drawer. I'd already withdrawn my half last week quietly, canceled the auto pay for her phone on my account. She'd be fine. Her parents would cover it, or Tyler would. Someone always did. By noon, I was done. The apartment wasn't empty, but it no longer had a pulse. I dropped the key off at the leasing office, told them to take me off the lease. They didn't ask why. By 3, I was at a new place. Short-term lease, month to month, 1 room, no dining table. It smelled like fresh paint and wood glue. I didn't mind. I transferred my mail to a P.O. box, changed my emergency contact, left no forwarding address. She was probably still at the ceremony, tossing her cap into the air with strangers she'd never see again. Parents cheering, friends tagging her in stories. Later that evening, she posted a carousel of photos. Her in cap and gown, her with her mom, her with her dad, her laughing mid-toast with a group of people who all seemed to still like Tyler. No photo of us, no mention of me. I didn't like the post. Didn't comment. She probably assumed I was brooding, waiting, that I'd sulk and then come around like always. Her texts would come later. "You're being weird," or "Can we not do this now?" But this wasn't that. This wasn't punishment. This was final. She just didn't know it yet. She posted a boomerang of her mimosa 3 days after the ceremony. Same brunch spot we used to go to. Same marble table. Different people. I didn't watch it twice. The Venmo request went through that morning. Simple, exact. Last rent split. Best of luck. She saw it, left it blue, no text, no comment, not even a passive-aggressive emoji. I didn't resend. Instead, I walked the long loop behind the grocery store we used to shop at. It was quiet there. You could hear your own footsteps against the gravel. Mutual friends started reaching out. Nothing dramatic, just casual check-ins that weren't casual at all. Everything okay between you two? Did something happen? I kept it short. No drama. One of them pushed, said she seemed extra free lately. I just said, then I guess she is. There was a kind of relief in that, letting the shape of it be whatever people wanted to imagine. I wasn't hiding. I was just done performing. A week passed. Then 2, she didn't call, and I didn't chase. Instead, I booked a flight to Denver, stayed with Professor Abrams, the one who used to ask the kind of questions that stuck with you longer than his lectures. His place was quiet, smelled like dry books and boiled coffee. We didn't talk about her. He asked what I was working on. I told him I didn't know yet. That was the truth. I took long walks near the river, watched cyclists pass in twos, laughing into the wind. I watched a woman in a red coat sit on a bench and cry for 10 minutes without trying to hide it. She wiped her face with her scarf and kept going. That moment stayed with me, the simplicity of it, the permission. I checked my phone once out of habit. Still nothing. The silence wasn't heavy. It was hollow. And hollow things echo. She'd start to hear it soon, not because I yelled, not because I blocked her, but because I left no words for her to step on. And absence, when you're used to being the center, sounds louder than anger ever could. The brunch spot was the one on 8th and Maple, bougie lighting, 20 tatar omelets, patio filled with the sound of chairs scraping stone. I recognized the backdrop the second I saw her post. She was holding a half-finished mimosa, that performative smile nailed into place. Same sleeveless floral dress she wore the day she met my mother. Caption, onwards, unapologetic, unattached. The kind of line meant to sting, but only if you hadn't already packed and left. I didn't react. I didn't need to. But the comments started building, friends hyping her up, emojis glittering praise. Then her cousin dropped one. Tyler would have been proud. And below that, just one reply. No profile picture, no tag, no name. You sure about that? Nothing more. Just that line. I read it twice. She probably did too. It sat there like a crack in glass. Small, but impossible to unsee. She didn't delete it. But she stopped replying after that. The likes slowed down. A day later, she posted a story. Coffee with a friend, overcaptioned and manicured. Background noise louder than the conversation. Compensation. Her version of events was holding, for now, but there's a strain in curating peace when the absence keeps interrupting, and silence has a way of leaking through the seams of even the cleanest image. I was back in my own place by then. Clean floors, folded shirts, one mug. I'd already unsubscribed from her Spotify account. Already rerouted the last Amazon order I placed under her name. She still had no idea how quiet I'd gone. Not just silent, erased, but that comment, 5 words, no name, told me something else. Someone was watching, and they remembered what she wanted forgotten. I opened the unit on a Tuesday afternoon. Cold air, concrete floors, that hollow echo when you shut the door behind you. Most of the boxes were still taped from the last move, ours. We'd said we'd go through it together, clear out the junk, decide what stayed. We never did. I pulled out one of the bins labeled in her handwriting, sat on the floor and started sorting. Old birthday cards, a dried rose pressed into a notebook, my first lease agreement still folded with the deposit slip. There was a folder marked 20-ton internship. I paused. That was the summer she told me she was alone. Said the office was cold, the town smaller than it looked on Google Maps. Said she kept to herself. No friends, no drama. Inside the folder, behind a printout of her stipend breakdown, was a thank you card. Sloppy handwriting, a crooked smile drawn next to the name. Thanks for the ride back from Silver Ridge. Next time, lunch is on me. T. I flipped the envelope, postmarked from the same city she interned in, the same month she told me she cried every night from loneliness. I sat still, watched the edges of the paper curl slightly from age. It didn't hurt, it just reframed. She never needed to say it. The truth had always been there. The pieces weren't loud, but they always fit if you stopped pretending the gaps were accidents. I slid the card back into the folder, pulled a fresh manila one from my bag, wrote on the tab, closure optional, filed it with the others. The receipts she never knew I kept, the notes from her dad, the list of shared accounts, all now closed. It wasn't about holding on, it was about knowing where the story had cracks, where the edits were made. and where I chose not to believe her, just to keep things easy. This wasn't the first rewrite, just the last one I'd let her publish with my name still in the dedication. She got back around 9. I know because the lock cam I forgot to disable still sent me the notification of front door opened, keycard tap. Her card, not mine. I imagined her kicking off her shoes by the door like always. Purse dropped on the bench. Then that first pause when the light catches something unexpected. The apartment was clean. Not empty, not trashed, but cleared. Drawers opened and quietly closed. Closet, hanging light. My side bare but not stripped. The kind of absence you don't notice until the air changes. On the kitchen counter, where I used to leave her coffee ready on workdays, sat 3 things. The spare key she gave me after month 6, a printed photo of the 4 of us at her parents' lake cabin, flipped face down, and a USB drive. The key was clean, not bent, not bitter. The photo, creased at the corner, the one where her mom was holding her hand too tight, and I stood half a step back, eyes on someone else. She picked up the USB, turned it over like it might explain itself. No label, no note, just the weight of silence. She plugged it in, not with urgency, not yet, probably thinking it was something sentimental, an old playlist, a soft goodbye. But I know her. By the time the folder opened, her breath would have changed. The clips were labeled by date, timestamps from 2 years ago through last fall, mostly innocuous than not. Muted phone audio, a screen recording. I hadn't hacked anything, hadn't followed her, just watched what was already public, filtered what she forgot to delete. She probably thought I was too quiet to notice, too safe to suspect, but safe isn't stupid, and silence doesn't mean asleep. She stood in the kitchen that night with 3 small objects and the echo of everything she thought I didn't know. It wasn't revenge, it was documentation, and that makes all the difference. She clicked the file labeled "Play this first." Not a folder, just one video. 32 seconds. It opened to a static frame of a patio table, wrought iron, half in shade, the kind of place she always said had character, 2 iced coffees, a half-finished sandwich, and then her laugh. That exact one she used when she was flirting but pretending she wasn't. Across from her, Tyler. Same haircut as always, backwards cap, sunglasses he never took off. The audio came in clear, clipped from a phone tucked just out of sight. Tyler leaned in. "He still thinks we barely talk?" She shrugged, smiling. "He's fine, just bland, safe, not angry, not even dismissive, just casual, like she was describing a mattress she didn't love but tolerated." Then she bit into her sandwich and said something else with her mouth half full. "He won't do anything about it." Tyler chuckled. "Well, that's what makes it easy." She laughed again. It ended there. No commentary, no timestamp overlay, just my voice calmly added at the end. Soft, low, deliberate. "I didn't confront you, I just observed." Black screen, no music, no threats. She must have stared at it longer than it ran, because once you hear yourself speak that way, like someone else's reckoning is background noise, you realize exactly who you've become, and you wonder how long they've known. She probably looked around the apartment hoping for some sign that I'd misunderstood, some angle that made it better, but I hadn't yelled, I hadn't accused, I just let her speak for herself, in her own words, with the person she thought was still in her past. It wasn't the worst thing she'd ever done, but it was enough, because some truths don't need escalation, they just need exposure. After the video, the screen returned to the folder view. One more file sat there. Simple title. Final. She opened it. A single-page PDF. No graphics. Just lines of text. Clean. Neutral. Precise. First, an itemized list. Clothing, 3 boxes, picked up June 5th. Personal electronics. Cables, drives. Office chair. Purchased pre-relationship. Books, tools, documents, each with a check mark. Then, receipts. Utility disconnection, confirmation, gas, electric, water, completed, lease removal form, cosigner withdrawn, no balance owed, internet transfer, service discontinued, modem returned, further down, account removals, Spotify Premium, removed from Duo, Hulu, Netflix, access revoked, gym, emergency contact replaced, The formatting was surgical, lines aligned, dates tight, everything closed without friction, no emotion, just clean subtraction. At the bottom, one sentence: "Consider this your clean break. You've earned it." No name, no signature, just that. She stared at it, probably waiting for something else. Another tab to open, a message to pop up, something messy and dramatic to respond to, but there wasn't one. Because this wasn't a fight, this was an edit. She had rewritten the story for herself, posted brunch photos, played the unattached lead, so I rewrote my own chapter, and in mine, she simply phased out, not punished, not blamed, just removed. Her guilt, if it came, wouldn't be from what I said. It would be from what I refused to give her. The argument, the chase, the performance. I hadn't tried to win. I hadn't tried to explain. I just cleaned the slate, handed it back, and walked out of the story. And now all she could do was sit there in the home that no longer held me, staring at a screen that no longer offered her a role. She waited 2 days, then 3. Her first text was short. "Hey." I didn't answer. By the 5th day, the messages got longer. Explanations disguised as questions. "Can we talk? I just want to understand. Are you okay?" She called twice, straight to voicemail. Left one message, hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to sound hurt. She waited another day before trying my email, the work one, subject line: "I get it, I do, but still." I didn't open it, deleted it without reading. She posted a photo of her dog, mine originally before we moved in. Caption: "Missed walks, missed mornings." I didn't like it, didn't view the story, because she was still trying to tug on old ropes, and I'd already let go. A week later, she went to the cafe, the one on Lincoln with the crooked table near the window we always asked for. The barista, Julie, recognized her immediately, gave a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just you today?" She nodded. Julie hesitated. "Do you want your usual table?" She nodded again, quieter this time. She took her seat, ordered the chai I used to split with her, and sat with her phone face down on the table. The seat across from her stayed empty. She looked at it a few times. Once when the drinks came. Again when a couple sat at the table beside hers, laughing too loud. That seat had held more than me. It had held small gestures, tired evenings, quiet forgiveness. Now it held nothing. And nothing, when you expect someone, is the loudest thing in the room. She stayed for 40 minutes. Stirred her drink too much. Checked her phone without unlocking it. And when she left, she didn't look back at the door. She knew, not from words, not from closure, but from silence that held, and a space that stayed vacant. The account had been private for years, barely 20 followers. No tags, no cross posts, just a handful of people who'd earned their way in and never asked questions. She was one of them once. Late Sunday morning, after the cafe, I opened the app, scrolled past the noise, and tapped the old circle. Uploaded one photo. The trailhead was nothing dramatic, just pine needles, faint tire marks, and that first flare of sunrise cutting the edge of the frame. My boots in the corner, dust on the toes, no one in sight. Caption: "Some things, once walked away from, should stay behind." No names, no hashtags, no location tag. It sat there for a few hours with no likes. I didn't care, it wasn't for them. But by afternoon, her name showed in the seen list. That was enough. She didn't message, didn't double tap, but I could feel it, how the timing must have cut. Not with anger, with finality, because I hadn't disappeared. I'd just stopped orbiting her. And when she saw that image, she knew something she hadn't believed until now. I wasn't paused. I wasn't waiting for a conversation. I had gone where she wasn't invited, and I had no plans to circle back. There wouldn't be a dinner, a drunk text, a late-night apology framed as growth, no return to the apartment, no asking for my name on the lease again. She had misread the silence, thought it was a prelude, a stall, but some exits aren't loud because they're permanent. And some photos say more than any closure conversation ever could. That trail, that light, that empty space beside me. That was the ending, and she wasn't in it.